Welcome back. We are now going to build a project funnel. And this is just a term coined by me, but it's essentially, right? You got your project funnels. Things are going to client delivery. So looking back, let's just go back into Tyson Media Pro, which was the course that or the company that we started in projects. And I already showed you how you create sections, right? You can come into board and do the same thing, add a section. And that's all you do. And the purpose of each section is to move a task from idea to delivery. And through that is a very complicated process. And you need to make sure when you have a ton of moving parts, typically we're kind of in a slow period right now for Honeylove, but as you can see, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tasks. And when you get that many tasks running through a funnel, you've got to have systems. And these are those, and making sure that they're assigned to the right people, right? And so I want to just explain kind of what that looks like as I build out for this one. So I already showed you how we just duplicate a project, which is the fastest way to go. But if we open this back up, adding sections, kind of already talked about why sections and what they are and what is so important about them. So ideas, this is basically where when you're brainstorming with a company, you're sitting with them and you just need to come up with ideas for a product launch or a campaign you want to put together. So you throw in all those ideas inside of this section. So let's come into here. Oops, sorry. We're going to start our ideas tab. Move that to the top. So inside here, you're going to, say brainstorming session. Okay, so now when you click on that task, you're going to open up the ticket, which is where everything will live for that project. And so you'll assign it to the right person, you'll assign it, and then you'll add a due date. The thing about ideas though, maybe there's no due dates. And then inside this, you're going to just write down all the ideas. You're going to say idea 1, idea 2, idea 3, and it's just going to be a notes taking section, essentially. And a lot of the times from there, you might be adding subtasks. So now we need to move that idea along. So maybe you need to create a task that is someone's responsible for this idea, and you assign it to that person. And inside of these subtasks, it won't show up unless you add to projects. So you click this and you add to this project, so Tyson Media Pro. So now when you come over here, it's now a task. And that's one thing I learned later. That's getting a little more complicated. I don't think you need to deal with subtasks much, but it's very easy to not like, for me as the boss or the project manager of a company, I want to see every task that everyone's working on. And so I won't go into each task, but I'll have this overview just up front, and I will want to see things. So add it. So you have this, and then you add it to a project. It'll pop up out here, which is where I want to see it. And then you're going to move the task down. So in concepting, and I'm not going to go through this entire funnel, but just so you get a good view. So let's say we're now done with the brainstorming session, and this task has now become a campaign. And it's like, okay, cool. So we now have a campaign name. So we're going to call it that name. Maybe this task has been completed, so you'll complete it. And this description, a lot of the times I won't delete what's in it. I'll just go like this, and we will boom, boom, and we'll update with more information about the campaign, so it's a little more clear. And then you're also going to be adding team members to each of these tasks as things move. So it goes from idea to concepting. Maybe you have a creative director, and then you start adding this chat. So this is where you can have conversations, and you can tag people, and it becomes kind of like a message channel. So then we come here, and now it's going to move in writing. Now that we've got things, now that the campaign's kind of broken out. So we're going to move this from concepting and now into writing. and then you're going to assign it to the right person, whoever does ends up being your writer. Okay, and then you're going to just continue through this, and these are all going to be already built, but in production, this is where, now that it's out of writing, now you're going into pre-production. You're going to start, assigning it to your producer essentially, and they're going to talk about location scouting, and they're going to add their own subtasks inside of those. So maybe something is halted, and this can come from like any section after or before, where it's like, hey, this task or this idea has been stalled. It needs to move into question, which if we were to look at Lumio, it was, we're waiting on legal, HR, design, whatever. So things that are kind of out of our control, they'll live there. And that means that's so that if you have someone that's project managing and they just open up this project and they're like, I'll just have people do a quick overview, and they'll see things here and they're thinking to themselves, how do I get this to move? So they might reach out to these companies to actually get them out of this holding cell essentially. And so once we get it out of there, it's ready for production, hopefully. So this is where you're going to start assigning the teams, and we went through all of this in the previous sections. All of those are kind of living in each of these sections. So inside of the production, this is when you've added a shoot date, you've done everything pre-production, you're ready to shoot, and then you're going to add like a this is where you're going to add like a shoot date. So I'm just going to skip a few of those. Just going to skip a few of those sections, and this one's now coming here, and so then we want to add a shoot date. So I like if they're more, a lot of times they're more than one day. So you'll add, let's just say the 22nd through the 24th. So now we know that that's when that date is, and then it's assigned to whoever's in charge of that project. And then inside that, you're going to start adding like all the people that need to be involved with that project. Okay, so now the project's being shot. And as soon as it's been shot, or even while it's being shot, depending on the size of the production, you've got someone, your project manager, your editor, whoever you have helping with post-production, they are now coming into this project, and they're going to start, a lot of the times, you're going to start creating more tasks. So you're going to create the main video, and this can also be subtasks inside of the main campaign, but things can get pretty busy here. So you want to, this is where things can just start breaking out. Main video, because then you've got like resizes, cut downs, right? All these different versions of that campaign. And the best part about keeping them as subtasks right here is that they stay organized in this main thing. But your project manager will decide on where that lives depending on the size of the project. A lot of things are very small, and it might even just be editing. So you're going to come straight to editing, and you're going to add a task, and you're just going to move it through editing to final review. So now we're going to go through the review process. So this is where the editor is going to give it to whoever's over this company. The best example that we have for that is inside of Honeylove. We have John review, and then it goes to Tyson review. So John is our main project manager's main editor for Honeylove videos. So when it's done, and all we do for Honeylove is editing. So these are just, that's why we don't have an editing tab, because it's just editing. We don't have like a production tab, so it's very obvious. So so we basically will get a project from Honeylove, from their Asana, drop it in here. It's built. So a lot of times we'll build a task and it's not ready to assign. There's still information we need from Honeylove. So then once it's built, we add it here, and then we add the production brief or the editing brief. And then once we have the information that the editor needs, now it's ready to be assigned. So then we assign it, and then the editor, it's now their job to say, okay, I am now working on that, and they drag it from there to in progress. And so once it's living in progress, that means it's being edited. And then you can see that the due date is tomorrow. So they're being held accountable and know that it will be done tomorrow. And the thing I love about this is that no one can hide, right? Everyone's held accountable. So it shows that John made it. He changed the due date. He assigned to Mary, moved this task from not assigned to task is built. It literally documents everything. So if something falls through the cracks, you can come back here and see the history and just be like, oh, well, that one fell through the crack at this point, and now we know who to talk to and hold accountable. So then we go into the review process once they're done editing, and it goes to John, and he gives it a once over and just gets all the stuff that's like on brand and the editing styles that he knows that Honeylove wants. And then it goes to me, and typically when it goes to me, I'm just looking at it and then I'm approving it, and John will send it off. And we have our whole review process with Honeylove, and every other company is different. There's a lot of different review processes that we try to chameleon into whatever company they want. And then once we add the feedback, or once the feedback's been added, so you can kind of see, here's a good example of a project that went from here all the way down, all through the conversations with Honeylove feedback. And then once it needs to be updated, we move it backwards to update with client feedback, so it's back into the funnel. And then we update the client feedback, send it, and put it back here. So that kind of cruises through each of these, update with feedback, send to client review, done. So then I won't necessarily even mark them complete. A lot of the times I just move them to that section and they live there. And the reason for that is that once things are complete, it just is a little bit more complicated to go back and actually find a project. So we like to just leave them here. And because a lot of times companies will want to refer back to a project. And so they will come in here and they will open that project up and just move it back into the system. And so very rarely am I completing projects unless it's gone forever. So in production, you kind of saw those subtasks. There's a task that needs to be done, location scouting, that's been completed. There's no reason to revisit that task, right? So those ones you can complete, but this is what I like to do. So that is our project funnel. The thing with it is that this is, like all of these classrooms, is that this is as big as it will probably get. There might be little things here and there that you'll add, just very custom things, but they'll be inside of every one of these steps. This is the most busy steps that you would need for a company. So a lot of the times it's going to be very basic. You'll just need a few of these, but at least now you can see everything's there, so that as you're building out your systems, you can see what I've done, and you can just literally copy and paste what I have. And this can go into any project software management system. So this is just how we use it in Asana.